Hello and welcome to a Pioneer video and deck tech. We are going to be playing Mono Black Aggro today. So the Mono Black Aggro deck we've already seen it find success online. And now with the banning of Veil of Summer, the deck actually gets much better because you don't have to worry about your Thoughtseize, your Fatal Push, your Swift End getting hit by Veil of Summer. So this is a deck that is actually going to improve based off of that. It's a monocolor aggro deck. The mana base, lots of swamps, one Urborg. And then we've got our creature lands. We're seeing a lot of Mutavaults in these decks with good mana that can afford to play a creature land in Mutavault. And then Castle Locthwain, actually a really important card because we've got so many cheap spells. We want to be able to draw some extra cards later in the game, and we can use our life total as a resource with the castle. So yeah, lots of 1-mana cards here. We want to be getting on the board on turn 1 and playing a creature like a Bloodsoaked Champion, like Knight of the Ebon Legion, Gutterbones, or even Night Market Lookout. If you remember the time when vehicles decks were popular in Standard, we actually saw some of Night Market Lookout as a way to crew up our vehicles, and in this case, our Smuggler's Copter. We're seeing a lot of Smuggler's Copter in this format. It's just a really nice way to loot through your deck, make sure you're playing the right cards every single turn by having that loot effect. And the flying, the evasion. There's not that many good artifact answers for it. And so we've also got some removal, 4 copies of Fatal Push, and we've got some disruption, 4 copies of Thoughtseize. So we kind of get the best of both worlds there. Fatal Push, arguably the best removal spell in the format, and then Thoughtseize, arguably the best discard spell. In fact, Thoughtseize just is the best discard spell in Pioneer. 4 copies of Scrapheap Scrounger, so this is like another card from the vehicle era. Just a 2-mana 3/2, but it's going to come back if it dies. It's going to come back from the graveyard and give you that inevitability, so your opponent can't just throw a bunch of removal spells at your deck and expect to win with cards like Scrounger. Murderous Rider, another nice removal option, plus Screecher. Kind of you get both of them. From Adventure, we're familiar with this card. From Standard, same with Rankle Master of Pranks. Just a nice top end play here, and there's some cheap creatures we don't mind sacrificing to Rankle. Sideboard, some more discard. So 4 copies of Duress, some additional removal in Disfigure, Noxious Grasp. A specific color hoser with the grasps, and then so you see a lot of discard spells for Duress, and then the Kitesail Freebooters to go along with Thoughtseize. So if we are playing against a control deck, they're going to have trouble. They're going to be drawing off the top of their library a lot of the times because we can really pick apart their hand with the discard spells. Ruin Raider is another like card advantage creature we can draw some additional cards with. And then Kalitas, we're seeing a lot of this one. It's a life gain creature. It's good with removal. It's a way to close out games. So yeah, this deck is actually one of the more popular decks right now. And monocolor decks in general have been doing very well in this format. So mono black, no exception to that. And I will be showing you how good this deck is, so stay tuned. Alright, so here we are on the draw, but I think we keep this. We have our little combo, if you will, with Night Market Lookout and Smuggler's Copter. And you're going to get a lot of hands like this that the card quality in this deck may be a little bit lower than some of the 2, 3, 4 color decks. And that's okay. We know that's what we're getting ourselves into with this deck. So this is going to get pushed. Trade 1 for 1. It's okay. We're most likely just going to play our Smuggler's Copter next turn. Get this looting going. Thoughtseize, I don't think that changes up the plan. We could fire it off here, but we don't know exactly what's going on with our opponent's hand. We're just going to risk it a little bit and not play Thoughtseize this turn. We might want to play it here before we play anything else, though, to see what's going on, because the information is pretty valuable. I think I'm going to. Okay, so it is a Golgari deck. Interesting. Vraska, Fatal Push, and Assassin's Trophy. Okay. So Vraska can come down next turn and get rid of something, which is kind of scary. But we do have a decent amount of threats. I think we just take the Fatal Push. This way we can let the Vraska come down, but like if they Assassin's Trophy here, it's not actually the end of the world because it gives us another land, which is pretty useful. We can play Rankle next turn, and that can attack Vraska if we want to. We can also Murderous Rider the Vraska if our opponent just decides to use it in uptick. So I think that turn was good for us, rather than letting our Copter get Fatal Pushed. But Tireless Tracker is a pretty good draw for our opponent. So we can rankle. Them. We know about Overgrown Tomb and Vraska are the two cards we know about. I think I am going to go for this Rankle Master of Pranks and make them sacrifice the Tireless Tracker. Now the question is, what other modes do we want to use on it? I think we just go for discard and creature sacrifice. I'm just gonna pitch the Fatal Push. So now all our opponent has is a Vraska, but Vraska can't actually minus to kill the Rankle. So like they can play Vraska and uptick to sacrifice their clue. But this is still going to come in and force a discard. We can Murderous Rider away that Vraska, so I think we're in a good spot, generally speaking. Now, top decks are a thing. The mono black deck that's how it gets beat a lot of the times, is with top decks. But here, pretty easy spot. We can just Murderous Rider. Or Swift End, rather, the Vraska. And I'm going to recast it. So now our opponent's purely top decking. They would need a really impressive combination of cards to get out of this. They do have the clue, so they can draw a card with that clue. Maybe looking for something like a Fatal Push or a removal spell to get rid of our Rankle. Alright, so pretty straightforward win there against what looked to be a black-green base, but was a Sultai deck. I think Ruin Raider and Noxious Grasp look pretty good to me. I don't know if we want our Fatal Pushes here, just because they are somewhat situational. Excuse me. So, and I like the Ruin Raider that it can provide us some additional card advantage. Noxious Grasp kills all of the cards we saw, right? I don't know that we wanted additional discard spells. We already have Duresses. Could see shaving some, like, Night Market Lookouts or something. But I think I'm just going to run this. That felt pretty good overall, that game. Let's keep this. Okay, so they have a Goose. That's actually scary because it means they could have an Oko. And we don't have a Grasp. So I think because of that, we should probably just Thoughtseize and respect it. Respect the Goose. Alright. Well, this is a pretty good hand from our opponent. Courser, Tracker, Kalidas, Fatal Push. Wow. Yeah, this is going to be troublesome. I think I'll just take the Courser. But all of those cards are, I mean, they're all pretty devastating, honestly. So, not immediately think our chances of winning this game are much lower than the last game. So we're hoping our opponent doesn't draw more lands. Optimally. I think we just want a double creature here. Try to get something going. We know that our opponent can Fatal Push something, but just hoping no land drop this turn. But there's a land, so that's good. That's going to create a clue for our opponent. And sometimes the games in this format are decided early on, and that's kind of what we're seeing here. Could block. Not going to, because I mean they just sacrifice the clue, and it just doesn't work out too well for us. But our also being on the draw this game, it makes things a little bit tougher. We can get the Gutter Bones back if we want to, but then we're not deploying our other creatures. The problem is now Kalidas can come down as well, and unless we draw a Murderous Rider, we don't have an answer to it. And it looks like that's what our opponent's going for. Yep, it's Kalidas. So, this is a spot where we could just send all of our creatures in. I think we probably just send in the Knight and then hope to draw removal next turn. Oh, sorry. I think I said earlier that I was thinking about blocking with Bloodsoaked Champion. That was a mistake. You cannot... It can't block. I don't know why I said that. Apologies. Okay. Well, we pump. Alright, I think we're done here. Next game. We're on the play for this one. Which is obviously a pretty big deal to be on the play. The Fatal Pushes still are interesting. They don't outright get rid of the annoying cards, but we can use it to get rid of a goose. So yeah, maybe we want some Fatal Pushes back into our deck. Don't know that we want the full 4 pushes. I think I'm gonna go with this, because yeah, I think this is fine. We do have those additional Noxious Grasps. This is a nice hand. This is actually like pretty optimal for us. We don't have a Thoughtseize, but we do have this Swift End, which Murderous Rider. And I think we want the Copter in play, although it probably just dies and our hand is pretty good. So maybe we go Scrap Heap first, Scrounger first, because if our opponent has a Fatal Push or something like that, we'd actually rather them use it on one of these creatures than the Smuggler's Copter. And it looks like they might have a Fatal Push. So if our Scrounger gets pushed, that's fine. Yeah. So kind of as expected there. I think we want to play Copter. There's some argument for just leaving up the Murderous Rider, but I think that's a little bit too passive. We don't know that our opponent's going to play something like a Tracker or a Courser. There's a chance that they do, however. Okay. So this is interesting. We also have Castle Locthwain. This turn, I think I'm just going to attack with Gutter Bones, because it's pretty likely our opponent has removal. And we can also just hold up the Swift End, and also, if we want to, we can just draw a card off Castle. So they did have removal. It's fine. Unfortunately, Smuggler's Copter is not a creature in the graveyard, so we cannot bring back our Scrounger yet. They're just playing out a Murderous Rider. Interesting. So we can get rid of that if we want. We could also just draw a card off Castle. I think we just get rid of it, though. Just try to stay aggressive. Okay, Thoughtseize definitely be using that this turn. Fatal Push, Collective Brutality. They have no blue mana for Oko. I think we just take the Kalitas, because that's just the scariest card, and we don't actually have an answer to it in our hand. And the spot removal spells we can play through. And we're also just pressuring our opponent pretty hard. Like if they brutality and kill a Gutter Bones, we have the Scrounger in the graveyard still, so like spot removal is not actually that great here against us. So I really, really like our chances this game. And they're just going to go for the life drain effect there. Interesting. Do we still get in with Mutavault, or would we rather... We can bring back... We can actually draw a card off Castle Locthwain. I think that's pretty good here. I'm going to do that. And what do you know? Another Copter. So... I think we still just bring back... Actually, now it's kind of an interesting decision. We can bring back Gutter Bones. We can bring back Scrounger. We know about the Fatal Push in our opponent's hand. I'm just going to bring back the Gutter Bones. Super conservative play. But at the same time, what's our opponent going to do? Fatal Push the Gutter Bones here? You know? It's not really anything good that they can play. And now we've got plenty of gas. I think we just get rid of this. And just max pressure. Probably want to draw a card off Castle. End of turn. It's either that or play the... Like, it's definitely always weird. It's like, do we want to draw a card or do we want to commit an additional creature? So we're on the draw, 1 land hand. I'm gonna ship this back. Have a keeper with this one. I think we just put a swamp on the bottom and hope to... Yeah, I think that's on average we're going to have 3 lands with this by turn 3. And we don't know what we're playing against, so that means that, you know, we're not operating with that information. We don't know if Fatal Push is good. We don't know if... I mean, the Night Market Lookout, I think if I was to put back a spell, it would probably be this, just because we don't have the Smuggler's Copter, but we're gonna try putting Swamp back. Okay, so some sort of blue-white deck. Possibly Spirits. Second Night Market Lookout. One of the worst draws there that we could have had. I think we want the Night. Like, we would like to draw a Smuggler's Copter. That would be one of our best draws, because that would give us something to do with these Night Market Lookouts. As of right now, it's going to be hard to force through attacks with them, because our opponent played a 1-mana 1/2 creature, which actually matches up really well against what we're doing. And they, in fact, do have the Smuggler's Copter. Well, We do have a Fatal Push, so if we attack and they crew, we can then get rid of the copter. But if they just block with Thraben, nothing happens. I think we want to just play double Night Market Lookout here. And they can attack us with the copter, but like this hand almost has to try to race our opponent. So we're just gonna let the copter hit us here. And now our attacks look much better. Like the Thraben Inspector is tapped. Yes, our opponent gets to loot, which is a real problem. But we're getting in there. I think we want to play the Blood-Soaked Champion. And I guess it's possible we want to just get rid of the Thraben Inspector. I'm gonna wait on the Fatal Push. We don't know what's in our opponent's hand. They could definitely have more creatures they're looking to deploy. Okay, well in this case, I think we just get rid of Thraben Inspector because it allows us to have better attacks. If this gets like Spell Quellered or something, we have a Murderous Rider still in hand for that. So what happens if we attack with everything? Is it too greedy? Like they can go crew if they would like to. They could make their Mutavaults into creatures. I guess I'm just gonna attack with the Knight. See what happens here. Don't know if there's not that many answers to it, to the Knight, that our opponent can have. It's fine. Yeah, this is all perfectly reasonable for us. I mean, if we trade Knight for double Smuggler's Copter, we'll accept it. I think that's acceptable. They get the 2 loots. I mean, it's not great for us, but I don't think we had a better options. The problem is, and we see here how good the Copters have been, is our opponent has gotten to loot away a bunch of lands. They've looted away 3 lands. So allowing our opponent to smooth out their draws it's a cost. There's definitely a cost, and we're seeing that this game, because there's a pretty high likelihood that those cards left are like pretty good cards that our opponent wants to be playing. They do still have the clue, so don't love our situation, honestly. I think we just get in with Blood-Soaked Champion here. The night markets just don't match up well against 2 toughness creatures.
Also, a card we really wanted to draw. We actually wanted to draw Castle Locthwain here. We have 4 of them in our deck. We haven't drawn any Mutavaults or any castles, so the draw, because of that, looks a lot more anemic. We can use the Murderous Rider on the Brineborn Cutthroat, which I think we just do it here. See what happens. Could get Spell Quellered, but then we have some top decks. We have some cards we can draw into that would be good draws. Okay, that is not bad. Okay, I'm actually just gonna bluff attack with the Bloodsoaked Champion. Like the bluff here is like if we had a card like Fatal Push or something, it would turn it on. But it looks like our opponent did not actually take the bait on that, so that's okay. By using the Murderous Rider, we were able to free up being able to play this Smuggler's Copter, which is pretty good on this board with double Night Market on the battlefield. If we win this game, which I don't necessarily think we will, but we're doing things the hard way. That is bad for us. That is really bad. I mean, we are going to get 2 clues though. So that's something. All right, 3 clues. I think we were supposed to crew that up though in response, so we can use the clues to our advantage here. Pop 1, see what we draw. Pop a second one, see what we draw. Okay, so not the best, but just play the Copter out. Okay, once again, I think we do crew here in response. And our opponent's down to 1 card, so we definitely have a shot here to win. I think I want to animate Mutavault, maybe. Although by attacking with the Copter, it means our opponent can crack back. Maybe we just activate the castle. I think I prefer that. Okay. Just gonna pass here. If our opponent's not attacking us, we actually have the advantage now, all of a sudden. I mean, the Deck and Stones seemed to be bad for us, but the fact that they gave us all of these clues was also pretty bad for our opponent. So we just want to crew here to get the drain effect. And I think we want to crack the clue, although maybe we don't. In case it does give us fodder in case we draw a fatal push. We have it, and we don't necessarily want more cards in hand, so I guess I won't. That may seem counterintuitive to not crack there. I mean, we do want to be looting with this hand. I think I'm gonna fire up the Smuggler's Copter and get in. We can also pitch away the Bloodsoaked Champion if we want to, which is pretty good. Ooh, okay. Yeah, I'm gonna pitch the Bloodsoaked. And then just cast this Rankle. It could get Spell Quellered, I guess. But that would leave our opponent Hellbent. Okay. So they get to get in for a reasonable attack here, but we're still at 18. We can block with Immunivault and have an attack back. And if we draw, say if we draw a removal spell and get to kill one of these spell Quellers, then everything just unfolds. We get our Rankle back, we get our Murderous Rider back. Obviously, our opponent's gonna do their best to try and avoid that happening. And big attack coming through. They have to respect our attack back with our 2 Mutavaults. Like if we go animate, we have 6, 9, 10 damage. So I think they do have to leave back 2 creatures, but then what if we just take it and they don't have anything? I think we're in a pretty good spot either way is the thing. But like we might just want to trade the Mutavault for Brineborn Cutthroat. So if they have 2 blockers, they block 2 Mutavaults, they're taking exactly lethal, so they would have to have like a flyer or something. Or a 1-mana spell. Like if their card is like Thraben Inspector, that would keep them alive. It's kind of close. It's pretty close, actually, as to what to do. Because taking the extra 3 damage from the Brineborn Cutthroat definitely is not irrelevant. Well, if we take it all, we're basically relying on our next draw step. I think that's fine. If they have something. Okay, Deckenstone. That's fine. We're gonna pop a clue. I think we just need something to actually Yeah, we just need something, anything basically. This is lethal, I think, because we play this crew. They have, yeah. Interesting game, for sure. Not positive I played it correctly, but also didn't think I was going to win. We were going to win for most of the game. Okay, so as far as sideboarding, initially I thought the night markets were bad, but then they do work well with the copters. So that is an interesting dynamic. I kind of like Ruin Raider, except we're going to be on the draw. The card is much better on the play. Grasp is a way to get rid of spell quellers, but it doesn't get rid of all of the creatures. So this is tough. This is actually pretty tricky, figuring out how to sideboard. Kalidas is, of course, a pretty powerful card we can go to. I wonder if we should just take out the night markets. Go a little bit more control-based. Fatal Push is actually another card that can be weirdly awkward in some spots. Just because we don't want to be really fatal pushing something like a Thraben Inspector. I'm going to try this. Going a little bit bigger. A little bit more top end. This is a fine hand. Little copter on copter action. That's fine. I actually am just gonna try to play the long game here and just not attack, so that we have the copter back for blocks. But they might just pass here. If they did, it would mean they had a spell queller, but just gonna be Reflector Mage. So now, okay. So I'm okay with the trade. This is one of the reasons also we boarded out the night markets. It's because sometimes we just want to trade our copters. We're not going to get into the same sorts of board states every time. We could actually loot away the Blood-Soaked Champion. I think it's better to just get rid of a swamp though, because we have excess swamps. We're not going to be getting this back on our turn. Thoughtseize, I'm just going to use that because opponent's got 4 cards. We just want to play with perfect information. And we see a card that we really want to take, actually, this Gideon. So I'm going to grab that. We do have the answer to it in the Grasp, but it still allows our opponent to get a 2-for-1 on us. I'd rather just take it. Allow our opponent to attack us a little bit here, down to 14 if they want with the Mutavault. But Plains, Deck and Stone, and Thraben Inspector, I think our hand is set up reasonably well against that. Just have to be a little bit careful about our life total. So
kind of want to just play out both creatures. Yeah, I think I'm going to do that. If our opponent wants to deck and stone Ruin Raider, that's okay. We get a clue, so we're not going to get attacked because we still have the Smuggler's Copter back to block. So this seems like an acceptable spot. And Castle Locthwain is an important way to draw some cards later. So we're just trying to keep our life total high, and then we will be able to grind the game out if it goes a few more turns. Because even though we are a monocolored aggro deck, the late game is pretty sweet for this deck. Okay, deck and stone. It's fine. So we don't know any more cards in our opponent's hand. Do we want a crew? Feel like the answer is yes, but maybe we don't. Yeah, maybe not. Maybe the answer is not yet. Just gonna play out Scrounger here. Scrounger's a good attacker. Okay, we've been saving the grasp, so likely to grasp the Gideon. Although I kind of want to pop this clue. Okay. But also Murderous Rider, which maybe is better, because we can actually cast the Murderous Rider, which seems pretty great on this board. Although what I can do is send both of these creatures at Gideon and force a block. It's another thing we can do. Just gonna attack with the Scrounger. Playing super conservatively here. So there's goods and bads about playing the Murderous Rider. The bads is that now if our opponent plays something like a Copter or a blue creature, we don't actually have answers to it. I guess we don't need to crew Copter in response to this. Okay. So our opponent's Hellbent, and we've been... Okay, Thoughtseize is a bad draw. But... we can crack the clue. Play out this Mutavault, which is fine. And...
and pass. So, I mean, our opponent's like one draw step away from having a really good attack. We couldn't play the Bloodsoaked Champion there, unfortunately. And we also don't have a creature in the graveyard to get back the Scrounger. Notably, though, this matchup, a lot of things exile and bounce, so it's kind of harder to get creatures into the graveyard for Scrounger in the matchup. Now, if they just send everything here, I am going to just go ahead and grasp a Reflector Mage. We want to be doing that. And I think we're just going to eat a Mutavault. Question is what we ditch, and I think it's Thoughtseize. Only one card in our opponent's hand. And now it's on the battlefield. Okay. So that can tap things. And our opponent's still at 20. I think we want to play out the Bloodsoaked Champion and play Rankle. The question is, how do we navigate our attacks? I think we want to attack with Rankle. And force the creature sacrifice. I'm going to sacrifice Bloodsoaked Champion. But I'm not going to get it back right now, because we want to have the mana up for Mutavault activation or getting back Scrap Heap Scrounger. We would have to exile the Bloodsoaked Champion, but just having the mana up here is pretty important. So I think I'm going to animate Mutavault. And I'm fine with just trading Mutavaults. And then getting back Scrounger seems pretty good. If we want to do that. Yeah, let's just do that. I guess that was fine. Because that was fine. Ooh. Well, that's a good draw. Alright. Well, our opponent only has one card in hand. Let's see if they do anything before combat. I mean, if they don't do anything, we just attack with both. So in this case, they did do something. I think we want to attack, but before we loot, I actually want to
grasp the giant killer, and then activate castle. So this will give us more information about our loot. Just pitch the Scrounger. I think I'm going to cast this. Maybe we just maybe we make a conservative attack here and just get in with these two. All right, I think we want to be making them discard and sacking a creature. Double Brineborn Cutthroat, that's not really that scary. So we're just going to sacrifice the Scrounger, and we can bring back one of the Scroungers. We also get this Night Trigger. Gets a counter. Sets us up for a potential lethal next turn. And that is the game and match. Okay, on the draw, triple Fatal Push. That's a lot of Fatal Pushes. We don't know the matchup. But we do have 3 lands. I'm going to keep this because if the pushes are good, I think this hand is great. Not great, but it's we want to keep if the Fatal Pushes are going to be good cards in the matchup. We're fairly likely to draw at least a creature to be able to crew this, and we can loot away the pushes potentially if they're bad. So it's not a good hand, but it's like a borderline keep for me, not knowing what our opponent's playing. Alright, Island is scary, but we did draw Bloodsow Champion. Let's run that out there. This could be like the Is It Phoenix deck or something. Don't know yet. Okay, blue-white control. Could be that. If it's blue-white control, we are getting max punish here. The maximum amount of punishment. Okay. Sure. Well, if this Smuggler's Copter doesn't stick around or something, we are just stone cold dead. We're just stone cold dead this game. Alright. We get to loot away one of our Fatal Pushes. Another Azorius Charm. Not really anything we can do about it, unfortunately. Our opponent could also Field of Ruin us to make us shuffle away the Copter if they wanted to. Which it looks like they will be doing.
I think I'm just going to play land and activate Castle Locthwain. Unless our opponent presents something we want a Murderous Rider. And I'm just going to hold up the Swift End here. Now after sideboard, the matchup gets way, way better because we won't have these Fatal Pushes in our deck. They will be out of here. So just a draw go type of situation. If our opponent has a card draw spell, that puts us in a pretty awkward spot. I guess I'll just play out the Scrounger. They could also have a sweeper though. Yeah, Rebel Sphinx's Rev. That's good. That's pretty good. Don't think we're going to be winning this one. But, hey, I mean, force our opponent to at least interact with our board. Might as well just Fatal Push this, honestly. I'm not excited by it. Okay. Well, now we get to bring back a Scrounger. We're going to exile the other one. It's not the worst spot to be in. And we have the answer to that in the Murderous, so the Swift End. So if our opponent tries to like double block a Scrounger, I think we do just go ahead and burn another Fatal Push. And might as well get the Copter on board. So we've actually managed to use three Fatal Pushes, which is kind of funny. That's going to take out the Copter. Well, the question is, can we beat another sweeper? I think we just play out this Murderous Rider. Yeah, especially with our opponent using the Azorius Charm there. That is bad news, that castle. We might use our 4th Fatal Push. Man, this deck draws so... the blue-white deck draws so many cards. Hard to imagine they don't have the sweeper, but at the same time, not much we can do about it. Now what we can do is put this trigger on the stack, and then we can use the Scrounger. To exile the Murderous Rider while that trigger is on the stack. So it's pretty sweet. Okay, get in there. Now, if they make a 1/1 to block, do we just Fatal Push? Man, sometimes this deck is... The games play out so weird, but our opponent's at 2. They're at 2. And we have 2 attackers. I still feel like we're going to lose, but it's been a very weird game. Because our deck does play through sweepers very well. Okay, so they can activate Castle Ardenville. If they have, like, another Sphinx's Rev or something... Oh my god. Oh, wow. 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 Okay. Yeah, so now our opponent's back to having 1,000,000 cards. they always have 1,000,000 cards in hand. Great. And another Detention Sphere. That one, if we Fatal Push here, it doesn't really do anything. I mean, they are going to have to discard. There go. Yeah, this is so much card draw. I mean, we're going to get in there with Bloodsoaked Champion, because why not? Okay. Now they just get to make a bunch of 1/1s each turn. With these castles. All right, I'm gonna scoop this up. Go to the next one. Gets way better for us after sideboard. Get Ruin Raider, Freebooter, Duresses. And we get to take out our Fatal Pushes, which is huge. That we get to take those out. And then I think we want to be taking out our Murderous Riders as well. There's just really not that many Planeswalkers. We saw the one Elspeth, but we just want to be super high density of both threats and discard. And because we need a combination of an aggressive draw and a disruptive draw, most likely, in order to win. Like something like creature into force our opponent to discard their wrath, like creature discard spell. And this deck, this configuration is pretty likely to be able to have that. All right. So we're on the play, but only one land. Unfortunately, if this was a 2-lander, it would look so much better. But I'm gonna pass on this. Oof. Also not a great hand. We could put back a swamp, but then it's just night market, duress, and then some swamps and stuff. Swamps in the Mutavault is relevant. Like if it was only 5 swamps, I think it would definitely be a mult of 5. I mean, this is a tough spot. It's a tough spot to be in. Does not feel good. I'm going to mull one more time, though. Mull one more time. Keep this one. We don't have a discard spell, but we're keeping it. I think we have to put back the Rankle. And probably just the Night Market Lookout. Just hope this aggro start is going to be enough, and maybe we draw like a duress or a Thoughtseize and push through the whatever interaction our opponent has. So I think this was our best hand. I mean, sometimes we can win with this type of hand. Azorius Charm is the main interactive card our opponent can have here, so we're hoping that they don't have that. And they do. So, yeah, just a good draw here from our opponent. Try again, shall we? I kind of want to just pump. I think I'm going to. They have second Azorius Charm. It's bad for us. So they had it, but at the same time, pumping allows us to play around a Supreme Verdict a little bit. So I think it was right to pump. And now we kind of just play into the Wrath if they have it, because they've had They've had 2 disruptive spells. Okay, gets disallowed. Well, that's fine. So they had disallow for last turn. If we just dealt them 3 damage, they probably disallow Scrounger there. Disallow is an interesting one. In this matchup, it's definitely worse than Absorb. Although it can counter things like returning a Scrap Heap Scrounger from the graveyard. Or a Knight of the Ebon Legion activation, but I think it's still worse than Absorb in this matchup. Detention Sphere? Okay, so 1 for 1, they get to get rid of something. If we draw a land, we get to jam Rankle. And we have a shot at things at this. We're gonna definitely forcing the discard to happen. 100% we're gonna do that. And then the question is, do we want to allow our opponent to draw a card as well? I don't think so, because it gives them another draw towards like a sweeper, like a verdict, which they clearly do not have one in their hand. They could have an Elspeth or a Planeswalker of that variety. It's a fairy, yeah. So that's fine. They're gonna minus on Rankle. Okay. actually a pretty weird spot, but I think the correct play is just to get the Teferi off the board. Play this land so that if we draw another land, we can then have 2 activations of Night, which would represent lethal damage. Fortunately not there, so let's see what that last card is. Oh my gosh. You're joking. It's a revelation. Alright. Well, that's bad news. We're going to take away the Supreme Verdict. Alright, so they knew we were drawing Rankle, which we're clearly casting, and hoping that this last threat is going to do it for us. Just going to force the discard. Now, they do get this castle activation, which is bad news. So maybe that means we want to actually make them at 3, so that if a Scrounger activation would be Scrounger hit is now lethal. So we play land and pass, which means now we can, if they like Supreme Verdict, we can then get back Scrounger and have a 3-power creature. Unfortunately, it's Detention Sphere, so Detention Sphere doesn't actually work for us in our favor because it's exiled, of course, under the enchantment. Could draw another Rankle. Oh no, we can't draw another Rankle. There's Dragon Lord Ojutai. So that's actually a pretty good way for our opponent to close the door on this game. Yep, unfortunately just could not get this done. I guess I can play this, but I think I guess I should have duress first, but I'll duress now. I think we're dead. Yeah, they have a spell queller. Yep. Okay, so once again, we've got a hand where we're on the draw, but we only have one land. We do have a Thoughtseize and some interaction with the Fatal Push, also a 1-drop. So, and if we draw a land, we get to play the Copter. I think I'm just going to keep it on the draw. There are a lot of 1-mana spells in the deck, so a hand like this might, I don't think is as crazy as it might look. Okay, so we get to see what's going on here. There's a Trail of Crumbs and an Oko sitting in our opponent's hand. So our opponent's playing food. The Trail can come down next turn. The Oko on the following turn. We do have the Murderous Rider, which can get rid of Oko. So maybe that means we just take the Trail here. I think I'm going to try that because, like, our opponent not having a play on this next turn is pretty relevant, pretty good for us. And they're definitely playing cards like Gilded Goose in their deck and other ways to produce food. So the Trail it's bound to be good. I'm just gonna get rid of it and hope our opponent doesn't do much besides that Oko, which we potentially have an answer for with our Murderous Rider. And I think the play is going to be playing the Copter. Yes, pretty lucky to draw 2 lands in a row. No question about that. So they could make a food. They could also just make the Copter into an Elk. But they're going to go for the food, so we're just going to go for the Swift End and see what happens from here. Another Oko, so we do have another Swift End we can use to get rid of that, which we probably just have to do that. So I'm going to do that. Make sure that happens, and then next turn we can potentially Fatal Push this Elk if we want to. I think we want to make sure we can play multiple spells this turn. I'm going to start with Knight, Crew. Probably just pitch another Knight because we have a lot of Knights, right? And I don't know that we need to kill the food right now. Just going to play out a Murderous Rider because it's mana efficient. They did find this Trail, although at this point we've got a pretty good board. We'll see what they can reveal off of it, off this trigger. It's going to be a Witch's Oven. Okay, that's pretty good for our opponent. They're probably just going to run that oven out. So we might just want to move to the air, to the skies. I think I'm going to do that. So they can sack the food or sack the Elk for food, which we are going to see happen kind of That's to be expected. Okay, Thoughtseize is kind of good. I'm gonna now get rid of the Fatal Push. I don't think it's really useful anymore. And I kind of want to draw another card. And then we can Thoughtseize. So our opponent has 2 lands. 2 lands. We can beat 2 lands, but they can sack this food. So their life total is still pretty good, pretty high. If they find something like a Cauldron Familiar, it actually gets... It's a goose, okay. That's pretty good for our opponent. So, time to get in for an attack. I guess we pitch the Blood-Soaked Champion and just get it back. So just making our board even bigger, essentially. This reminds me a lot of Standard, where I'm thinking, like, what if our opponent just finds a Massacre Girl? Which is real. Like, that's a card that's played in the Standard version of this deck. I don't know if our opponent has it, but, like, it would be pretty insane if they did. Okay, Cauldron Familiar. It's pretty good, but still beatable. We've got a lot of creatures. We've got a lot of creatures here. They do get to make some oven tricks happen. Okay, so I liked our line. I really liked our line there. I think we definitely want Kalitas to be able to disrupt the oven stuff. Grasp seems good. Ruin Raider could be good. The question is what we actually want to sideboard out. So we're boarding in quite a few cards, and I think Fatal Pushes are, like, getting rid of the goose on turn 1 seems pretty important also. All right, well, I'm gonna do some shaving. Night Market Lookout, Gutter Bones, I think it's cuttable. Got a couple of Scroungers. Rankle's another card that, because we are boarding in 4-drops with the Kalitas, maybe we can shape a Rankle. But have to be worried about cards like Wicked Wolf. Cards, I mean, these food cards. Food is good. Food is, if anyone hasn't gotten the memo, food is really good. So I think we just have to push this. Now a deck like the one our opponent's playing would really benefit from Veil of Summer in this matchup. Ooh, they're tapping a black. Is it a Cauldron Familiar? Yep. That's fine. So, kind of want to just play out the Copter here and be mana efficient. Also, an Oko isn't the end of the world for us because we have Grasp for it and Murderous Rider. Does mean that our opponent can make this food into a threat. But I think we want to be Thoughtseizing, hopefully taking something relevant. Yeah, we have to take the Trail of Crumbs again. And take care of the Oko, so that leaves our opponent with another familiar and a Once Upon a Time. Massacre Girl, they do have it. They have the Massacre Girl in their deck. They do have it. Well, we're taking a lot of damage, unfortunately. This is a lot of damage. That's a good, decent draw. So I think we just pass. Wow. Think we want to keep the Kalitas. I mean, both of these cards are very good here, actually. Rankle can force our opponent to discard cards, which is really relevant. Maybe it's actually the Rankle we want to try to allow our opponent not to get the mana for the Massacre Girl. Feel like I'm going to regret this decision, but I'm going to pitch the Kalitas. Because our opponent missed a land drop last turn, and they only have 3 lands. So also, like, well, Kalitas gives us some protection against Massacre Girl. It does. It does give us Massacre Girl protection. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure on that choice. But I think that the Rankle is going to be good next turn. I don't know. If I knew what was in our opponent's hand, like if we knew they had a Witches of it in hand, I think we would have to take Kalitas. Have to keep Kalitas, rather. But now our opponent's probably thinking, like, what could we have kept in our hand if we pitched a Kalitas? Alright, so let's see what our opponent has here. Okay. So we get to play this Rankle, and it looks like it should be pretty good in this spot. So we force them to discard their card. We might actually want them to sack a creature as well. Yeah, I think we animate the Mutavault, and we're gonna sack that. Means our opponent has one less attacker for the next turn. Although the goose is problematic. Might as well loot, because we can put things that have graveyard effects into our graveyard. So that our opponent can make a food here. So we want to crew up the Copter for sure. I think we're attacking with everything, actually. Because we have the Murderous Rider, which is our way to gain life and kind of get us out of this spot. Noxious Grasp is a pretty good draw, but we're still just casting Murderous Rider. I guess the question is, do we want to sack the... Do we want to sack creatures here? I think so. Maybe not. So this is kind of a big draw step for our opponent. They did not draw anything relevant. So once again, we're attacking. I think I just want to grasp. We don't really want to allow our opponent to block with the goose. Our opponent can bring us down to 1, but then we're gaining life back here. And we want to force the creature sacrifice. We're just going to sacrifice the Bloodsoaked Champion this turn. Just bring it back. So I think we have lethal next turn if our opponent just draws nothing. I'm just gonna do it with the Mutavault. To crew. Okay. Fatal Push. It's fine. Don't think we want to use anything with it. I guess the one card our opponent could draw would be Massacre Girl. So maybe we don't play the Murderous Rider just because of that. Although, yeah. Actually, no. Massacre Girl wouldn't it would just kill the Bloodsoaked Champion. So it's fine to run it out. And GG's.